Lee Marvin finally breaks his silence on Paul Newman, and this one's got people talking. Marvin wasn't just another Hollywood tough guy. He was the definition of rugged power and raw masculinity. Known for his gritty performances and commanding screen presence, Marvin ruled the silver screen like a man who'd seen it all, because he had. Born on February 19, 1924 in New York City, Lee came from a well-off family. His father, Lamont Waltman Marvin, was an advertising executive, and his mother, Courtney Washington, was a writer in the world of fashion and beauty. Sounds polished, right? But don't be fooled. Even with a cushy background, young Marvin was restless and wild, always pushing against the rules, a streak that later bled into his most iconic roles. Before Hollywood came calling, Marvin's life took a sharp turn when he joined the U.S. Marine Corps during World War II at just 18 years old. He wasn't playing soldier. He was one facing brutal combat in the Pacific as a scout sniper during the fierce Battle of Saipan. That's where he was hit by machine gun fire, left severely wounded, and sent home with a Purple Heart. Those scars ran deep, both seen and unseen, shaping every battle-hardened role he played after. His real-life pain and discipline gave his performances a haunting realism that no acting class could teach. That Marine spirit never left him, and it built the legend of Lee Marvin, a man who truly lived what he later portrayed on screen. After the war, Lee Marvin was a man searching for purpose, lost between the chaos of combat and the calm of civilian life. One day, while working as a plumber's assistant at a small theater in upstate New York, fate came knocking in the wildest way. An actor got sick, and Marvin was asked to fill in. That one random moment lit a fire in him, the kind that would burn for the rest of his life. From that day on, he was hooked. Marvin dove headfirst into the world of acting, training seriously with some of the best coaches around, including at the legendary American Theater Wing. His rugged face, that gravel-deep voice, and his cool, brooding energy made casting directors stop in their tracks. It didn't take long before TV and film roles started rolling in fast. During the 1950s, Marvin built his reputation brick by brick, playing hardened lawmen, cold-blooded villains, and battle-worn soldiers in war movies and westerns. He popped up on hit shows like Dragnet and Wagon Train, leaving a mark with every gritty scene. Then came the real game changer. In The Big Heat, 1953, he played a violent gangster so chilling it made audiences lean back in their seats. And in Bad Day at Black Rock, 1955, he proved he could hold his own alongside Hollywood's elite. But his true breakout came with the TV series M Squad, 1957 to 1960, where he starred as Lieutenant Frank Ballinger, the tough, street-smart cop who made Marvin a household name. Every episode cemented him deeper into American culture, turning that war-hardened Marine into a full-blown Hollywood powerhouse. Lee Marvin's take on the sharp-minded Chicago detective in M Squad wasn't just another TV role. It changed the game. His raw, no-nonsense style brought street grit and real tension to the screen, showing urban crime in a way audiences had never seen before. It felt real, too real, and people couldn't get enough of it. By the time the 1960s and 1970s rolled around, Marvin was sitting at the top of Hollywood's mountain. He wasn't just acting anymore. He was dominating. He lined up hit after hit, including The Killers, 1964, and The Professionals, 1966, proving he could crush any role that came his way. Then came his crown jewel, The Dirty Dozen, 1967. As Major John Reisman, Marvin played a battle-scarred officer leading a crew of outlaw soldiers on a deadly, no-way-out mission. He didn't play the clean-cut hero. He owned the anti-hero image, the kind of leader who commanded respect through grit, not charm. The film exploded at the box office, locking his spot among the Hollywood elite and giving audiences a character they'd never forget. But before that, in 1965, Marvin showed just how versatile he could be with Cat Ballou. He shocked everyone by pulling off two roles, a washed-up, drunken gunfighter and his sinister twin brother. One moment, he was stumbling around in mismatched clothes, half drunk and wild-eyed, and the next, he was dangerous and deadly. That performance was pure gold, and it won him the Academy Award for Best Actor. Marvin proved he wasn't just a tough guy, he was a powerhouse who could twist comedy, danger, and chaos into one unforgettable performance. Lee Marvin's Oscar-winning performance didn't just make history, it defined him. That win shot him straight to the top, locking his name among Hollywood's true heavyweights. From that point on, Marvin wasn't just another actor. He was the leading man everyone wanted on their set. Throughout the next decade, he went on an unstoppable run of blockbuster hits that turned him into a legend. He tore through roles in The Professionals, 1966, The Dirty Dozen, 1967, Point Blank, 1967, and Hell in the Pacific, 1968. Each one more powerful than the last. In The Dirty Dozen, Marvin delivered a masterclass as Major John Reisman, the cold-eyed officer forced to lead a crew of dangerous military convicts on a suicide mission during World War II. The movie hit hard, gritty, rebellious, and packed with attitude, flipping the usual war story on its head. It became a full-blown cultural phenomenon, and Marvin's intense, controlled performance held that wild ensemble together like steel. Then came Point Blank, where Marvin teamed up with visionary director John Boorman. The film was a bold, stylish revenge thriller that rewrote what Hollywood thought it knew about storytelling. Marvin's character, Walker, a betrayed criminal out for vengeance, was pure, cold fire. He didn't have to shout or overact. His quiet rage said it all. That role became a blueprint for a new generation of anti-heroes, the kind of characters who were dangerous, damaged, and magnetic all at once. Off-screen, Lee Marvin stayed just as real as his on-screen persona. He was known for his rough-edged charm, dry humor, and no-nonsense attitude. While other stars chased fame, Marvin kept it simple. He'd rather be out fishing, surrounded by nature, than stuck in some flashy Hollywood party. He lived on his own terms, loyal to his close circle, always choosing peace and grit over glamour. The true spirit of a man who never needed the spotlight to prove who he was. But Lee Marvin's life wasn't all glory and smooth sailing. He got caught up in one of Hollywood's most talked-about scandals. The headlines exploded when his ex-partner, Michelle Triola, took him to court in a bitter alimony battle that rocked the late 1970s. The case became legendary, not just for its drama, but because it broke new legal ground in America, setting the stage for how courts viewed property rights and financial claims between unmarried couples. Everyone had an opinion, and Marvin suddenly found himself fighting a very different kind of war, one waged in tabloids and courtrooms instead of movie sets. Even with all that noise swirling around him, Marvin never lost his respect in the industry. He kept working with quiet confidence, proving that his talent spoke louder than any scandal ever could. His later films, Emperor of the North, 1973, The Big Red One, 1980, and Gorky Park, 1983, showed he still had that same fire, that same unstoppable screen presence. He stood shoulder to shoulder with other cinematic heavyweights like Charles Bronson and Robert Ryan, creating gritty, unforgettable moments that redefined the war and action genres for good. Behind the fame, Marvin also had moments of real love and partnership. He married Betty Ebeling in April 1952, right as his Hollywood career began to heat up. Their marriage became a grounding force during the chaos of his early fame. Betty, full of energy and heart, stood by his side through those challenging first years in film and television. Their relationship wasn't always easy. Fame rarely is. But it marked one of the most defining chapters of Marvin's life, showing a softer, more loyal side to a man the world saw as tough as nails. While Lee Marvin was off filming in faraway locations, his wife Betty was the one holding everything together back home. She managed the household on her own, balancing life as both mom and anchor while Lee chased his Hollywood grind. Together, they built a family rooted in love and resilience, welcoming 4 children into their world. Their firstborn, Christopher Lamont Marvin, arrived in 1952. The same year Lee's star began to rise. Christopher carved out his own path in life, living fully until his passing in 2013. After him came 3 daughters, Courtney Lee, Cynthia Louise, and Claudia Leslie. Claudia, born in 1958, brought light into the family but sadly passed away in 2012. Losing her left a deep mark on those who loved her. Through all the highs and lows, Betty stayed strong, raising their 4 kids while juggling the chaos that came with Lee's growing fame and his image as Hollywood's ultimate tough guy. It wasn't an easy life. The cameras, the constant travel, and the whispers of celebrity life all added pressure that few could handle. But fame has its price, and the cracks started to show. The long shoots, endless publicity, and constant temptation weighed heavy on their marriage. Betty tried to keep their family steady, but the distance between them grew wider with every movie and late-night headline. After years of emotional strain and separation, they officially called it quits in January 1967. It was the end of a complicated love story, one built on loyalty, sacrifice, and the heavy cost of stardom. When Lee Marvin and Betty split, the world couldn't stop talking about it. Their breakup became front-page news, not just because of Marvin's fame, but because of the family and heartbreak left in the spotlight. Years later, in her 2010 memoir Tales of a Hollywood Housewife, a memoir by the first Mrs. Lee Marvin, Betty Ebeling finally told her side with raw honesty and emotion. She opened up about what it was really like living in the shadow of a Hollywood legend. The love, the loneliness, and the emotional toll of standing beside a man whose life was constantly on display. But the part that really got people buzzing was one jaw-dropping revelation. Betty claimed that Lee had an affair with Oscar-winning actress Anne Bancroft. That rumor sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Neither Marvin nor Bancroft ever confirmed it, but the idea alone added even more mystery to Marvin's already dramatic personal life. It painted a vivid picture of the hidden struggles behind his tough exterior, showing that even the strongest men can have fragile moments when fame, temptation, and ego collide. After his marriage to Betty ended, Marvin's personal life stayed in the headlines. He jumped into a fiery and public relationship with Michelle Triola, the same one that would turn into one of the most infamous legal battles in Hollywood history. Their breakup sparked the now famous palimony case, changing the way courts viewed relationships outside of marriage. The drama was intense, messy, and unforgettable. But after all that chaos, something surprising happened. Lee Marvin reconnected with his childhood sweetheart. After years of fame, fights, and courtroom chaos, it seemed like he was finally reaching for something real, a bit of peace after decades of Hollywood storms. Pamela Feely, the woman who brought Lee Marvin full circle. The two had known each other since their younger days, long before Hollywood fame, long before the chaos. When they reconnected years later, it felt like fate was giving Marvin one last shot at peace and redemption. Their love story became a calm after the storm, a quiet reminder that even the toughest hearts can find their home again. They married in 1970, and this time it was different. No red carpets, no scandals, no media circus. Their relationship stayed low-key and grounded, far from the flashing cameras that had once surrounded Marvin's every move. Together, they built a life filled with simplicity and understanding, away from the noise of Hollywood drama. Pamela's steady presence gave Marvin something rare: stability. She never left his side, even as his health started to fail. Through the struggles with alcoholism and respiratory illness, Pamela stood strong, caring for him until his final moments in 1987. Their bond was quiet but powerful, the kind that spoke through loyalty and devotion instead of headlines. A decade later, in 1997, Pamela poured her heart into a book titled Lee, a Romance. It wasn't just another Hollywood memoir. It was an intimate, heartfelt tribute to the man behind the legend. Through her words, she revealed the side of Marvin the world rarely saw. Not the hard-edged, gun-slinging icon, but a complicated, loving, and deeply human man who finally found peace in love. Through Pamela's heartfelt writing, readers got to see a side of Lee Marvin the world never truly knew, the man behind the legend. Her words peeled back the Hollywood armor, revealing someone shaped not just by fame and fortune, but by deep emotions, quiet regrets, and a love that lasted far beyond the spotlight. It showed that beneath all that grit and bravado, there was a man who felt deeply, one who carried both his scars and his heart with equal weight. Throughout his career, Marvin built a reputation as the no-nonsense tough guy, gruff voice, commanding presence, and that signature glare that could freeze a room. He didn't play nice for the cameras or sweet-talk the press. Compliments didn't come easy from him, and he definitely wasn't the type to gossip about his fellow stars. So when, after years of complete silence, Lee Marvin finally spoke out about Paul Newman, one of Hollywood's most adored icons, everyone took notice. The news spread fast. Fans and reporters couldn't believe Marvin had broken his long-standing rule of keeping quiet about other actors. After all, this was the man who made his name playing morally gray heroes and ruthless soldiers in The Dirty Dozen, Point Blank, and Cat Ballou. His characters oozed raw masculinity, all hard edges and tension, the total opposite of Paul Newman's smooth charm and classic leading man appeal. For years, people wondered what really went on between these two screen giants. Were they friends, rivals, or just polite strangers, sharing the same cinematic era? The contrast between them couldn't have been sharper, and when Marvin finally spoke, it cracked open a mystery that had been simmering in Hollywood circles for decades. In the early 1980s, Lee Marvin did something no one expected. He opened up in a rare, unfiltered interview and finally broke his silence about Paul Newman. By then, both men were already Hollywood legends, their names carved deep into film history. Yet this was different. Marvin spoke with honesty, reflection, and a touch of vulnerability that fans had rarely seen from him. He started by giving Newman his flowers, admitting that he had always admired him, even if he'd never said it out loud before. Marvin confessed that he deeply respected Newman's work ethic, integrity, and dedication to his craft. Then he added something that caught everyone's attention. "I always saw Paul as the kind of actor who didn't let the industry change who he was," Marvin said. "He stayed grounded. He was a hell of a craftsman, never showy, never trying to be more than the role asked of him. That's something I admired, probably envied a bit too." That kind of praise was rare coming from Marvin, a man known for keeping his cards close. He even revealed that during the 60s and 70s, the two often competed for the same parts, powerful roles that could have easily gone to either of them. Yet somehow they never ended up sharing the screen. The closest their careers ever came was back in 1956 with The Rack, where Marvin said he learned more about who Newman really was off camera. Newman, drawing from his own painful Navy memories, used those emotions to deliver a deeply moving performance. Marvin admitted that moment stuck with him, proof that Paul Newman wasn't just acting, he was feeling every bit of it. Marvin revealed a haunting story that Paul Newman once shared, one that stayed with him for years. Newman had recalled a tragic moment from his Navy days when his closest friend was killed in a horrific accident, sliced apart by a plane's propeller on an aircraft carrier. That kind of memory doesn't fade. And Marvin said it became the emotional fuel behind some of Newman's most powerful performances. He admitted he watched Newman's work closely, studying every detail in films like HUD, Cool Hand Luke, and The Hustler. Marvin confessed that while his own career leaned toward brutal, detached roles filled with violence and existential grit, he couldn't help but admire how Newman played the opposite kind of depth. Newman didn't need to yell or swing a punch. He brought tension and moral conflict with a quiet kind of intensity that felt real, effortless, and human. Then Marvin turned the focus off screen, admitting there was something about Newman's personal life he respected deeply. "I respected him for being a family man," Marvin said. "You didn't see his name plastered in the tabloids for nonsense. He had Joanne Woodward, and he stayed true to her, while the rest of us were stumbling out of bars at 3 a.m. chasing ghosts." That line hit hard. A rare moment of self-reflection from a man known for his rough edges and restless spirit. Marvin didn't stop there. He praised Newman's generosity and moral backbone, pointing to the hole-in-the-wall gang camp and Newman's own food company, where every dollar of profit went straight to charity. For Marvin, who had lived through fame's darker corners and his own battles with addiction, seeing Newman use his power for good struck a nerve. "He reminded me," Marvin said quietly, "of what we could all be doing if we didn't let ego get in the way." Of course, Lee Marvin being Lee Marvin, his words weren't all soft praise and reflection. He kept it real. In his trademark blunt style, he admitted there had definitely been some competition between him and Paul Newman during their heyday. "There were roles I wanted that Paul got," Marvin said, "and hell, I was bitter. But looking back, he probably earned them. He was a damn good actor." That raw honesty hit like a punch, straight from the gut, no sugarcoating. Marvin laughed a little when he added, "I just didn't want to admit it at the time." It was the kind of truth only a seasoned man could say after years of reflection and battle scars. But what came next surprised everyone. A rare moment of humility from the Hollywood tough guy himself. "I never told him this," he said, "but if I had to pick someone who represents what's good about being an actor in this town, someone who kept his soul intact, it'd be Paul. We weren't close, but I respected the hell out of him. Maybe too proud to say it then, but I'll say it now." That confession hit deep, not just for fans, but for anyone who understood the unspoken rivalry and mutual respect between two Hollywood titans. Marvin's long-awaited words didn't just clear the air. They showed a different side of him, reflective, honest, and quietly humbled. In the end, his tribute wasn't just about Newman's greatness. It was about Marvin's own journey, too. His words revealed regret, admiration, and the rare ability of one legend to finally salute another. Man to man, actor to actor. It was a rare and powerful moment. Two of American cinema bound by mutual respect and quiet truth. But as Lee Marvin's words about Paul Newman echoed through Hollywood, his own life was entering its final fragile chapter. Known for that deep, gravelly voice, rugged face, and no-nonsense attitude, Marvin wasn't just a screen legend. He was a man who had lived hard, and his choices had started to catch up with him. Years of chain-smoking and heavy drinking had carved their toll into his body. By the mid-1980s, the same toughness that made him famous was being tested in real life. His health began to slip, slowly at first, then all at once. The wild living rebel who once seemed invincible was suddenly fighting a battle he couldn't win with fists or fury. In December 1986, things took a serious turn. Marvin was hospitalized after his condition worsened dramatically, a stay that stretched on for more than 2 weeks. Doctors diagnosed him with a respiratory illness caused by coccidioidomycosis, better known as valley fever, a rare fungal infection that attacks the lungs. It hit him hard, leaving him weak, feverish, and struggling to breathe. For a man who had faced war, Hollywood, and his own demons, this fight was the toughest yet. The illness stripped away his larger-than-life image and revealed something raw and human, the vulnerability of a legend who had lived boldly and was now facing the final reckoning of a life lived without breaks. For Lee Marvin, the illness turned deadly fast. What started as a severe lung infection spiraled into full-blown respiratory distress, a terrifying situation that left him gasping for air and fighting for his life. Doctors had to act fast, using every tool they had to keep him stable. To ease his breathing and control the inflammation tearing through his lungs, they began administering powerful doses of steroids. At first, the treatment seemed to help, but the relief came with a brutal cost. Those same steroids that kept him breathing began to wreak havoc on the rest of his body. The side effects hit hard. And in Marvin's case, they caused something catastrophic, massive intestinal ruptures that nearly killed him. His body, already worn down by years of hard living, couldn't handle the strain. The very medicine meant to save him was now tearing him apart from the inside. Doctors had no choice but to rush him into a major surgery, a colectomy, to remove part of his damaged colon and stop the internal bleeding. It was a high-risk operation, the kind that leaves even the strongest man fighting just to hang on. Though the surgery was successful in repairing the ruptures, it was clear Marvin's health was still hanging by a thread. His strength was fading, and every breath became a struggle. The road to recovery looked long, uncertain, and painfully uphill, but true to his spirit, Lee Marvin faced it with the same stubborn grit that defined him all his life. Even as his health declined, Lee Marvin's fierce determination never wavered. That unbreakable resilience, the same fire that made him a Hollywood icon, burned in him until the very end. Whether on screen as the fearless anti-hero or off it as the battle-scarred Marine, Marvin never backed down from a fight. His strength was more than just physical. It came from a life forged through hardship, discipline, and a deep connection to his time in the U.S. Marine Corps. His service during World War II shaped everything about him: the grit, the toughness, and the quiet authority that became his trademark. But years of hard living, endless cigarettes, and heavy drinking had taken a toll even he couldn't ignore. The body that had survived war and carried him through decades of Hollywood chaos was finally wearing down. Then, on August 29, 1987, the final curtain fell. Lee Marvin passed away from a heart attack at the age of 63. The news hit like a thunderclap across Hollywood. An era had ended. Fans, co-stars, and filmmakers alike mourned the loss of a true legend, a man who brought raw realism and fearless honesty to every role he touched. He wasn't just an actor. He was a force of nature who redefined what toughness meant on screen. Though he's gone, his legacy still roars through cinema history, bold, rugged, and unforgettable. If you were moved by Lee Marvin's incredible journey, make sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment below.